You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, and exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to JW World News. Well, here it is, November 26th, and we are glad you're with us tonight. Boy, we've got a lot to talk about in the news. How about that attempted arson at a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall in Maryland? And with the cost of living rising, will the price hikes destroy the Watchtower? And another thing that's really bothering me lately is this tough PIECE spokesman, Robert Hendricks. We're going to be talking about him tonight, as well as urban myths in the Watchtower. And what was your reason for leaving? Yes. Well, there you have it, and welcome in to the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we are so glad you're with us. We have got a number of people here with us tonight, coming in on our various networks. We're broadcasting on about 10 different platforms. And we also have a radio network here with a telephone line that's hooked to it. And people call in from all over the world, and they voice their opinions on how they have been touched, as we say, by the tentacles of the Watchtower. Well, here it is. It's a few days after Thanksgiving. Did you celebrate Thanksgiving? Well, in fact, I have to say that I'm just going to stop sharing. Hold on 1 second here. All right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have to tell you that my wife and I, we had some turkey, and we enjoyed that. And of course, being ex-witnesses, it's always nice that you can eat it and have a good conscience and not feel guilty. But, so many Jehovah's Witnesses, as of late, they are celebrating Thanksgiving, and maybe not in the truest sense of the word, but it's kind of like a secret Thanksgiving. Many witnesses are celebrating, and according even some of my own relatives still are Jehovah's Witnesses. But they're calling it, you know what they're calling it? Friendsgiving. They just changed the name, and they think they'll be okay with that. They're calling it not Thanksgiving, and they think they're all right with that. But, even having a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving, it's basically forbidden by the Watchtower. Yeah, they don't want you celebrating Thanksgiving. As a matter of fact, some people take this really seriously. They feel like, Satan, the devil himself, is going to jump out of the turkey carcass and drag you into it. They feel that bad about it. It really, really bothers them. As a matter of fact, there's one person I knew, and he said his grandmother always hated the idea of Thanksgiving come around. And she says, if any of you witnesses celebrate Thanksgiving, the angel of death could fly over your house and give you some real problems during Thanksgiving. Can you imagine that? But there are people that felt that way. But isn't it good to be able to have a nice meal together now and not feel guilty about it, like I said? But I'm going to tell you what. I got word that a number of my Jehovah's Witness relatives, then they got together this Thanksgiving Day, and they had a big turkey dinner. A number of them, not just for you. I'm talking, you count them on two hands, and they all got together, and they're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving. But even they don't call it that. They'll call it Friendsgiving. They'll call it not Thanksgiving. They'll put all kinds of names to it. But I'm going to tell you, I think it's so good. I think it's so good. I feel so good when I see all my relatives getting together for these holidays. Now, why do I feel that way? Well, you have to feel that way too. I feel that way because, maybe there's some PIMOs in the group. There's so many people that are finding out about who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. And I'm thinking even some of my relatives are finding out. And so they get together on a day like Thanksgiving. They have a few beers. They get talking to one another. And, maybe they'll start saying things. So that is a possibility. So then that's why the Watchtower, that's my feelings on why the Watchtower doesn't want you getting together with your relatives on Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. They don't want people talking. The Watchtower hates people getting together, especially people that aren't witnesses and talking. But now the Watchtower, according to even one of the latest magazines, they're even suggesting that don't trust your brothers and sisters anymore. Not only not trust apostates, but they're saying don't even trust your brothers and sisters. Make sure they're saying the right things. Now, why would the Watchtower even bring that up? They're bringing it up because they know darn well many, many people are bringing the bad news to the witness world. And that bad news is it's a phony baloney organization. And many people are finding out who they are. So did you have Thanksgiving when you were Jehovah's Witness? Well, I kind of did, even though my former wife wasn't too happy. I would go to my sister's house and we had a big turkey. My wife was kind of very loyal like that. And she thought it was, she thought it wasn't right that we did that, but I dragged her along with me. But, many witnesses, what they do is they cook the turkey and they have the turkey the day before or the day after Thanksgiving. I mean, how crazy is that? Is there any sense in this organization when you stop and think about it? But one thing I always gave thought about too. All right, so the witnesses claim they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. They don't celebrate, say, Christmas as well, and 4th of July and everything else. But they do get a day off from work. And if they really were true, die-hard, loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, they wouldn't take the day off. They'd say to their boss, well, I don't celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving, so, I'll just stay here and work. But, no, they take the day off, and it's strange to me that even though they don't celebrate the holidays, in essence, they do take the time off. Thanksgiving is something that I look forward to. It's nice to have a nice meal, especially with your friends and relatives, right? But they have a new term, and many of the Jehovah's Witnesses today, as I said earlier, they're calling it not Thanksgiving. And when the 4th of July rolls around, and they're going to call that not 4th of July, they're going to go to the parades, they're going to go to the fireworks displays and all of that. But the new term now is not 4th of July, not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, but we're celebrating whatever you want to call it. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight, and I hope that wherever you were, that you had a good Thanksgiving. I hope it went well for you. Well, you're on JW World News. This is the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But, we talk about it every Saturday night. We haven't missed, let me tell you right now, we have not missed a Saturday night going on 17 years. Every Saturday night, we've been here without fail. And why are we here? We are here because you are here. There's people that rely on this program. Many witnesses are getting out of the organization now, and they know darn well what's going to happen to them. They're going to be shunned, and many right now are being shunned. And they're listening into this program. And this is a live format. And this can be very reassuring to people that find themselves in a pretty desperate position. And we're even going to be talking about that later on at 9:30, a couple hours from now. We have a special program coming on called Suicide in the Watchtower. We have 2 former Jehovah's Witnesses out of New York, Fran and Joe. And they're going to be talking about all of the difficulties that many Jehovah's Witnesses experience and actually pushes them to the point of suicide. They're going to be talking about that tonight on the program. So we're looking very forward to their program coming in. But, right around now, a lot of people, not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but a lot of people begin to get very agitated, and they feel despondent and depressed. And I was out yesterday. I went out to get I had to go to Best Buy. Did you guys go out during Black Friday? Oh my God. I couldn't believe,
No.
I couldn't believe the people. Who's this? You want to say something? Go ahead.
My fault. This is the guy from Florida. So I also want to add in the point about if you want, you can bring a book to your mental therapist on Dr. Jerry Berkman. Let them explain the JW beliefs and whatnot. And there's a video from XJW Panda Tower.
Yeah. Well, what does this have to do, Guy, with the Black Friday?
There's a video about extra rules and why we don't go and socialize and why we don't go out and do anything fun and all of that for fear of getting spied on.
Yeah. Well, they will spy on you, but we'll talk about that some other time. But right now we're doing the news, guys, so we got to kind of cut it short here. But thank you for chiming in. It's okay, but we got to to stay on subject. Okay, appreciate you calling in, though. Thank you. All right, we've got okay. So that's Guy. We'll talk to him later. Right now I want to talk about Black Friday. Did you guys go out yesterday during Black Friday? The stores were mobbed. I mean, I went to Best Buy and then I went to Michael's to pick some things up for my wife. But I have to tell you something. I've never seen so many people shopping in my life. But, everyone's jovial. And this time of year, people can get very despondent. They really, really can, because I see all these happy faces and they're all out buying little gifts for one another and enjoying the holidays and Christmas carols singing in the background. It's kind of nice. It's very festive. And, if you're a Jehovah's Witness who's being shunned and you went off to a store yesterday and you see all the smiling faces, imagine how you'd feel. Well, I'm sure that Joe and Fran later will bring that up. So we'll have to listen in and see what they have to say. Now, I'm looking at the prices yesterday. They had some pretty good sales. But I don't know if you went out, if you celebrated Thanksgiving and you went to the store, you noticed that prices on everything are going to the moon. I mean, especially up here in New England, I'm noticing butter. It's just 6 months ago, we were buying butter for $1.99 a pound, and now it's $3.99 a pound. And eggs, they're 89 cents a pound. Now they're $3.89 a pound. So, I'm saying, man, it's really getting expensive for people. But I know for a fact that the Watchtower, they have big food bills at Bethel. I can tell you that. And those big food bills, they're getting even more and more expensive all the time. And the last I knew is they were buying food from the restaurant supply house. It's called Cisco. And it's not cheap food. The Watchtower does not serve cheap food. Cisco is a good company. In fact, they usually service high-end restaurants. So I can just imagine their food bill is going to the moon. I mean, really. And, but I'm starting to actually think, and I'm actually even starting to see early signs of a real desperate need for money in the organization, in the Watchtower organization. Now, I don't know if you're seeing that, but for many years now, they have been making cost cuts in several areas. And you will say, well, what do you mean, Mick? What have they been cutting back on? Well, for example, we talk about it here in the Six Screens. What about the Watchtower and Awake magazines? They're just a mere shadow of what they once were. It's like 16 pages. They used to be 32 pages. Now they're just half of that. And they're printing every month a study edition, Watchtower, but they're only printing about 3 or 4 public editions a year. And the same thing with the Awake. I don't even know if they're printing anything new for the Awake. I haven't seen anything, but if they are, it's very limited copies. And then we talked about all the Bethel layoffs and all the Kingdom Hall sales. Now, this is kind of crying out to me that there may be some monetary problems in the Watchtower. And we know they're paying all this money out for child sex abuse problems. A lot of these court cases are really bringing the Watchtower down. They're paying a lot of money out, but a lot of these cases don't even go to court. I would be willing to say on a daily basis, the Watchtower lawyers handing out money to people that, they're going to rat on the Watchtower if they're not compensated. So I think all day long they've got people, asking for money from them. So the Watchtower very well could be starting to crack a little bit financially. Now, I'm not going to tell you they're going to the poorhouse. I'm not going to say that. But I mean, they have sold a lot of real estate off, but they continue to sell things off. And it only tells me that they need more money, because have you seen what's going on lately on JW streaming? Have you been watching that? And they're telling poor people that they must donate, even poor people. I heard it for myself on JW streaming. They were saying that even poor people must donate. And they're making statements like that. And also another statement they just made recently when they're asking for money, they're saying that if you give us money, you're making friends in heaven with your financial means. Geez, that sounds like something you'd hear on the Trinity Network, right? That sounds like Michael Murdoch. So they're saying that you give us money and you'll be making friends in heaven. What does that mean? I'm going to make friends with Jesus and Jehovah and the angels because I give money? They don't need money. I'm not making any friends in heaven. As a matter of fact, I would think that God would even be repulsed if he read that in the Watchtower. But he doesn't read the Watchtower, I'll guarantee you that. So anyways, I've never heard statements like are being made right now about money in the Watchtower. I mean, I've been associated with the Watchtower for 50 years. I mean, I've been out now for about 15. But I mean, all my time in, I never heard of such money grubbing. Never. And I'm going to tell you something, too. There's only so much juice that you can squeeze out of a lemon. Gas prices, inflation, housing costs, and construction costs are affecting everyone, including the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. So, and then there's another problem, but the Watchtower knows this. Many Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a problem of being pretty much in debt on their credit cards. I mean, I'm not beating up on anybody. I mean, sometimes you have to use your credit cards, but man, I'm telling you, you can really get in hot water. But many Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't mind running up credit on their credit card. They don't mind getting in debt because, many feel, and I'm sure some of my in-laws feel the same way. I think at times they're very materialistic, but I'm thinking that, just keep running it up. And many witnesses, what they literally feel is that Armageddon, the big A, is going to come. And of course, their debt will be paid off. They won't have to pay money out to the credit card companies because the credit card companies will be gone. There's actually witnesses that believe that. Can you believe that? That is absolutely crazy. So
hey, Rick,
yes.
That's another crazy belief. That Ring doorbell is going to change their whole world this year.
Oh, yeah, it is, Pixie. Yes, it is. Yes. We have a fella on there, too. Go ahead, sir.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick, I maxed mine out and had to file bankruptcy because I thought Armageddon would come, and I would die at Armageddon because I wasn't, I didn't go to meetings. I wasn't a witness anymore. And, maxed mine out. So, didn't figure I had to pay it. So, there you go.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You could max it out very easily. I know a man. In fact, he was he retired from being an elder, but he was in his 80s. And in his 80s, he was running into financial trouble. So what he did is he took his credit card. He needed a car. So he went out and he bought a fairly new car on his credit card. And he used to kind of work with me a little bit. And he'd say, geez, Rick, I just got a nice car here. He says he put it on his credit card. And he says, I might never have to pay this back because Armageddon's right around the corner. Well, he died, and he died in debt. His wife had to settle that out. But see, that's what people think. How crazy is that? Many Jehovah's Witnesses and the organization knows it, that they will actually go further into debt and borrow more money on their credit cards in order to support the organization. There's even people that take loans out and support the organization. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the coming few years. The Watchtower, will the Watchtower be the first major religion to go bankrupt? I'm not going to tell you that. I would like to see it. I would like to see that happen like you would. But, I checked it out. Do religions go bankrupt? Oh, they do. I couldn't believe it when I checked it out on Google. Between 2014 and 2019, an average of 59 religious organizations filed for Chapter 11. Yeah, can you imagine that? Number of 59 religions. It's almost on a repetitive basis every year. It's right around 59, 60 religions that do. So it could happen. The Watchtower, just because they have billions, at least from selling real estate, and we're going to be talking more about this a little later on. I got another story on the mansions and apartment houses they're selling off to collect money to pay off child abuse cases. So here yes.
Yeah, this is Dan. Yeah, I wanted to just say, standing back now, hearing them ask about money all the time on jw.org. I remember my uncle at my mother's funeral. He gave me a lecture. Him and my brother all came in the room, and I stood my own ground. But basically, they were saying, where do they get the money, Dan? Where do they get the money to do this? Where do they get the money to do that? They're not asking anybody for any money. Where do they get this? Jehovah's providing. And I just wonder what he's thinking now, because there's a lot of things that's dividing the congregation now. And I know there's some things you can't talk about on here, the jab, that divided the congregation. I'm sure this tithing, this asking for money is dividing the congregation, selling off kingdom halls that people have worked very hard on, and we're very proud that they were able to contribute $100,000 to pay off their kingdom hall. I know my brother is pretty wealthy. He's got several homes, and I'm sure he's helped them in that way, in a big way. But what's happening, Rick, is they're a house divided against itself now, because some people are bothered by that. Some people don't want to go back to the door to door. They're scared. The Watchtower scared the hell out of them with the pandemic. And, now they're telling them, to go back and then not go back and, give money. And I think the people are, they've got to be talking amongst one another. Don't you think, Rick?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to be talking among one another. And, when I see them on JW streaming, and they're asking for, older widows, and they show a picture in the Watchtower magazine. It showed an older widow, and it was in the Watchtower magazine, like I say, and she had an empty refrigerator behind her, and she was saving her little money to be able to give to the Watchtower. No food, refrigerator's empty, but, give us your money. When I see this happening, and even Bethelites are being squeezed, that they're expected to give money. Yeah, this is crazy, Dan.
Oh, man. Yeah, so it's good news, though, Rick, because like you said, it's dividing the house. It's taking the heart, the big cult apart piece by piece. Because, like I say, each one of those would be a big thing. The giving was something that I was real proud. When I went door to door, I would say, we're not like Babylon the Great. We don't pass the plate. There's a little contribution box in the back, and I'd always say, I don't hardly ever put anything in there. I just pay for my literature, contribute. But those were bragging rights. But those are not bragging rights anymore. They're begging more than Babylon the Great. They're using they're reasoning with the brothers. Do you have property? Do you have this? They're they're guilting them. Jehovah knows what you have. Honor.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and after the witnesses, I went to different churches and stuff. They do not make their money off that plate or that basket, as far as passing around the congregation. Where they make their money is when people die, they donate them money, they give them houses, they give them land. That's where that money comes from. And I was going to say, Rick and Dan, you both remember the 75 prediction where all these people borrowed all that money. They sold their house and went to an apartment and everything because of Armageddon. I mean, this all links into what Rick is talking about on this program. So,
Yeah.
sorry I interrupted.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and too, what else they're doing? They're creating loopholes for the people. Yeah, they're giving them comfort and ease. Yeah, like what was one example that I had? Like one brother told me one time when I was driving down the road about a year ago. I didn't even think the guy would remember me, Rick, because I've been out 20 some years. And he's like, Dan, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. He said this to me. This sounds crazy, but he said, Dan, it's so easy now. And I said, what do you mean easy? And at the time, I don't think it was mandatory that they gave talks. He said the meetings have shrunk down. The Watchtowers, 45 minutes or something, or something like that. And he said, but all the meetings shrunk down. They didn't have the Bible study. So the witnesses have given them all this freedom in one sense, but now they're making up for it in another way. It's weird. They're giving them loopholes of being able to sit on their laurels, like sit your ass in front of a cart, right? Sit in front of a cart and be on your cell phone. You don't have to read any scriptures. You don't have to do anything. You can be on your cell phone, texting people and talking. And the Watchtower is just fine with it. Just tell them to go to jw.org. But what they're doing, they've created that loophole, but now they're putting pressure on them to give. I just think it's amazing, Rick, to sit back and watch the manipulation. And I'll stop talking, but it's just amazing to watch these con artists, how they're manipulating these people, why they're under mind control. And we know what the magic word is for their mind control is Jehovah says, and they'll do anything.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. Good comment. Thank you very much for commenting. Yeah, they want everyone to be a cheerful giver. And like I say, they were even asking the Bethelites who are working for free, even asking them to donate. And it's really to the point that they're money mongering. Let's go with that. And I don't, but it's good. Like you were saying too, Dan, people are going to start talking about this. I know I would if I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I've already reported on here many times people that I talk to and they call and I talk to them and still PIMOs. They're all concerned about how much money the Watchtower wants. But I don't know if you caught this story or not, but up in Salisbury, well, actually down in Salisbury, Maryland, an attempted arson at a Jehovah's Witness house of worship. Well, of course, that would be a Kingdom Hall. Authorities are investigating an attempted arson that occurred at the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses in Salisbury, Maryland, just, last Monday, not even a week ago. Now, according to the fire marshal, it happened around 4 a.m. in the morning when someone tried to set some type of an incendiary device at the building. And you can see the picture of it. I don't have it here up. But it didn't cause a lot of damage, but it scorched the door. And there's about $500 worth of damage. I mean, that's nothing, but it could have been a lot worse. And of course, they did capture on video a vehicle leaving the scene. Now, we have reported here, the reason why I even bring this up, normally I wouldn't. There's been quite a bit of Kingdom Halls in the last few years that have been targeted. They have been targeted with arson. People have been trying to burn them down. So you say to yourself, is this just random? I have to say no. And I would never advocate anybody out there listening to this program to go burn down a Kingdom Hall. That wouldn't be the way to do it. But there are people so ticked off. They're so upset. For friends, there's people that have lost marriages. Their family ties have been destroyed. Their jobs, their careers have been destroyed. They've put people into despondency. They've put people into mental health institutions. They've put people in the hospital from anxiety. There's people that are ticked off with the Watchtower. Let's go with that. And I believe that's what's doing this. And you're hearing more and more and more of this. And it's not just random. But I wanted to bring that up because as I research the news and people send me stuff, it's like a clearinghouse here at the Six Screens. We become like a UPI, like a Press International, where people send me stuff. You should see the emails I get. I get emails all day long, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day of stories that are going on. And what I do is I sift through all of those stories and I try to pick the top stories that are going on. But I've been seeing these kingdom halls being burned. This is alarming. But the thing is, when I was a witness, I never heard of that. I never did. I thought everything in Jehovah land was just hunky-dory. I felt like I was Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, right? Oh, everything is wonderful, and the munchkins and this and that and everything else. But boy, there's a lot going on that the witnesses never see. As a matter of fact, even the Kingdom Hall I went to, right here in Wilmington, Massachusetts, and I mentioned this to you guys before, there was a person who attempted to burn the Kingdom Hall down right down the street from where I live. He took a can of gasoline. He poured it all over the front door and lit it. And I mean, it caused some damage, but not a lot, maybe $1,000 or so. But he could have burned the place down. And of course, they found out who it was, and it was a disgruntled man. He had a fleshly sister who was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the fleshly sister, he could see, was turning to have cult behavior. She was acting very odd and strange, and he couldn't stand what the witnesses were doing to his beautiful sister, so he tried to burn the Kingdom Hall down. Yeah, that happened probably about 15 years ago. So these things do happen. So it's not just a matter of it's out there and the witnesses don't see it, that they're seeing this. And it's unbelievul that
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Could I make one more point?
Sure.
I like this point you're making, but could you imagine though, if you invested your hard-earned money, your sweat, you had all your children in some of these rural areas, a lot of fathers have all their kids get involved, even give money, and to pay it off, and then to have Watchtower sell it, and then see it a month later sitting as a church. And realizing you did this big hoopla, when it was built, we dedicated to Jehovah, we're all sitting on the floor, we're all grateful. And then to see it, not only your sweat, but your financial investment in it and everything, only to sell it to another church, you could see how angry they would be. And then that same person who built it has to travel 45 minutes to an hour to go to a new Kingdom Hall. And then they shut the halls down, and they don't reopen them. They would be burning mad. But here's one other thing I want to say, and I'll shut up. But the other thing, Rick, I wouldn't put it past Watchtower to burn down their own hall. I wouldn't. I would not put it past them. These guys are so greedy. They're so greedy, and they like
insurance.
Yeah, and they like the news. They like to be in the spotlight. And what news is there in Watchtower other than it's falling apart? And so that would be news. Oh, we're getting more persecution. They're the ones who jump on any emergency there is, any earthquake, anything, any crisis. They make a big deal about it. So it's propaganda for we're being persecuted. Anyway, Rick, food for thought, huh, Rick?
Oh, yeah, no, it is food for thought. And really, it's, I'll tell you what, but it's happening a lot. It's happening a lot. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to say, here in Iowa, there's rural areas that right after the meeting starts, they lock the doors. Now, I'll tell you, Rick, I've been to other churches. They're not doing that. They don't lock the doors ever during a service. And there's a reason they're locking the doors. And they're screening people that are coming in, and they lock the doors because they know they peed a lot of people off. That's all I got to say. No violence or destruction. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying they're locking the doors in rural communities. So that's my point there.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, Jeff. Well, no, that's what they are doing. I know even the Kingdom Hall that I went to in Florida, even 15 years ago, they were doing that. And many kingdom halls are doing that. And they were doing it in Florida because they were afraid. There was a woman in the kingdom hall, a sister, and her husband was really ticked off at the witnesses. And she was going to the meetings. He didn't like it. So we had to guard the door and lock the doors because we were afraid that man was going to come by and do something nasty. But that's what goes on. That's what goes on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. There's a whole world. These guys live in a parallel world. They do not see the real world. Everything in their world is hunky-dory and fine. But it's all falling apart. We're seeing it. We're seeing the very organization that many of us have hung our hat on for many years. We are seeing it crumble. Who'd like to speak up? You're on with us. Go ahead. Say hello to us. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Farron.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't advocate any violence against the Watchtower Society because what I advocate is get out from amongst them, just like the Christianity belief system has it in there and so forth. But it's a wonder that more of this didn't happen years ago and all that, because they really had it covered up, what they were doing and everything like that. And there was a lot of incidents that did happen many years ago, even like, for example, in California, there was a couple of people working on a kingdom hall. I can finally say that word, I guess. And somebody stopped by and asked for instructions, directions someplace. And this one guy kindly gave it to him, but the other guy was off on the other end working. And he said, okay, but the guy that asked for directions turned around, pulled out a knife, and he snuck up behind the guy that gave him the information, and he stabbed him to death. And for a long time, the other guy didn't even realize that the guy was, stabbed to death there and so forth. And so that was in one of their Watchtower publications, which I happened to get a hold of. This was many years ago, but I remember the incident. So yeah, it's a wonder more of this doesn't happen, but I would not advocate, that you use violence against them, because the best way to take care of the best way to meet these witnesses head on is simply get out from among them, pack it up and leave, and they're going to be left holding the bag and so forth. And so that is the only way you're going to get rid of them.
Well, they're bringing death upon themselves, really. And you're right, Ken. We don't advocate any violence, but if you're the only true Christian religion, and you're the only organization that says the only organization that has love, like the Watchtower suggests, why would they have so many attacks? Why would people be trying to burn down kingdom halls? Why do we hear about people even getting murdered and suicidal? If this is the happiest and greatest organization in the world, we shouldn't hear any of that. But we're hearing it, and we report it here on our JW World News. But Watchtower, they don't. I get in and I look at their jw.org site. They don't print or report on anything that's tarnishing their image. Everything on there is positives. That's why we have to give you the other side of the story, which actually brings me to the next story, Ken. Thank you for calling in. And it brings me to the next story that I wanted to talk about. And, there's one guy that really irks me in the Watchtower as of late. And you guys have heard me talk about him many times on JW World News. I'm going to put his picture up. If you're listening in on Facebook or YouTube, there's the man right there. That man's name is Robert Hendricks. He is a weasel. He is a snake. He is the spokesman. He is what I call the PIECE spokesman for the Watchtower. Now, let me just give you a little idea what I see going on here. I'm going to play a clip from Robert Hendricks. You got to hear what he's saying. They're using this guy a lot, but let me just give you a little bit of history here. And please follow me on this. When I was a witness, we had the Awake magazine, and we'd go out in service, knocking on doors. We had the Awake and the Watchtower magazine. And, many times would feature the Awake magazine before we would feature the Watchtower. And the Awake was more of it wasn't as religious. It had a religious overtone to it. And at first, people would get attracted to some of the things, some of the articles. They had general interest topics, and the topics for the most sense would make common sense. There wasn't a lot of religious biblical articles. It was just every, geographical studies, animals, all of this. You guys remember the Awake, right? Well, they use that. I'm looking back now, and I'm putting pieces of the puzzle together. They used the Awake magazine as a puff piece. It was a way to kind of get the witnesses, get the door-to-door, get the householders. Let's go with that. It was a way to get the householders to accept the magazines. Oh, geez, that looks good. How to make sweater? How come Patagonian sweaters are the best? And sometimes, people would kind of reach a soft spot with them, and they would take the magazines. The Awake and the Watchtower, of course, came along with it, and they were hoping that people would get addicted to this stuff, which many did. But anyways, let's fast forward a little bit. So they were using puff pieces way back then, but, it's not working anymore. They're not even publishing the magazines like they used to. So I believe now they're using propaganda published in online media outlets to appear to offer Bible-based common sense advice. This is where Robert Hendricks comes in. Yeah, this is propaganda. They're taking out these puff pieces in local newspapers and on, local yokel television stations, and they're paying for this. It's paid advertisement, and they're trying to reach the people by offering them some Bible-based common sense. And it's kind of like what the Awake used to do, right? So now what we've got, we have the Watchtower using these little puff pieces and using this Robert Hendricks. I'll take him off of here. They're using this Robert Hendricks. They're using him as their spokesperson, and he's good. The guy is good. I mean, he's a good con man. Let's go with that. So anyways, I see some of these puff pieces, and so far they've been talking about, disaster preparedness and on bullying tips. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we read they had a puff piece on how children shouldn't be bullying in school. And they talk about getting ready for some type of a disaster. So it's appearing the Watchtower is kind of encouraging people biblically to behave in a common sense way. Now, also, in addition, some of these puff pieces have been pro-education by discussing their support of children's schooling during the COVID shutdown. Oh, yeah, they were even talking about how children can still be schooled online. So it was appealing to people. It had some common interest. Let's go that. And common sense interest. So these puff pieces are appealing to people. But I want you to keep your eye on this snake, Hendricks. This guy is a snake and a half. His role is working with the Watchtower, and his role is focusing on recruiting people. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to recruit people by these puff pieces, by these infomercials. Now, they know that the door-to-door work, even though they just started it in last couple of months, they know that it's really symbolic at best. It's not working. That the Watchtower knows the door-to-door work isn't working, but they know that they got to go through the motions. But they're finding now that it's more productive. The Watchtower finds it's more productive to act proactively with online comments and content. So that's why you have Hendricks coming out. He's the great witness guy, and he's trying to give people Bible information in a roundabout way. He's not giving you the whole truth, but he's giving you a little bit of truth. This guy's slick. I'm telling you, he's very good at his job. And the more he speaks, the more he misrepresents things, the more that he lies. This is a very slippery slope. And people, even Watchtower people that are still in the Watchtower loyally, are seeing this guy is just too much. He's not really telling the truth. So I'm beginning to see, in fact, I've been seeing it right along. I report on Hendricks all the time. So I'm saying, how far might this man go? Well, right now, to me, he's demonstrating sociopathic traits. Yeah, he's demonstrating sociopathic traits. Well, you say, well, what is that? Well, what is a sociopathic trait? It's a person that doesn't care anything. He'll lie right to your face. He doesn't care if it's the truth or not. He has no feeling for that. He has no feeling for what you would believe. So, it's very, very disgusting to me. This guy would even be involved with this. Now, I do have a clip here. I have a clip here. I want you to hear this. Now, I want you to hear, this is Hendricks. He was just in the last week or so, he was on a radio station, and it was paid for. It's like an infomercial. But I'm going to play, it's about 5 minutes long. But I want you to hear all the lies that are coming out of this man's mouth. So let's put that up right now so you can hear it. Let's hold on 1 second here. Let me just, okay. So, okay, let's play it for about 5 minutes. I want you to hear what Hendricks, this guy, he's not only irking me, he's irking a lot of people. He's not telling the truth. There's no place for a liar. And when a person is caught in lies, I'm going to tell you the lies he's talking about. You got to hear it, then we'll talk about the lies he's talking about. Listen in right now. This is Robert Hendricks. He's the spokesman for the Watchtower organization. Listen in.
Jesus said, the greatest among you will be your minister. And so all of our dear ones are in the eyes of Christ, great.
So, Robert, tell me a little bit more about Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs and surrounding marriage in particular. Is it permitted for someone to date or marry someone outside of the religion?
That's a great question. Is it permitted? The answer is yes, because really we don't micromanage our friends. They make their own choices. Is it a good choice to marry someone who is not a Jehovah's Witness? Well, that's really up to the individual. But I'll say that as Jehovah's Witnesses, our religion is not just a tag on us. It's not just a name. It's who we are. It's what we do. Our brothers and sisters, our congregants go out and knock on doors every week. They conduct Bible studies. They go to meetings. It's not a periphery. Our religious beliefs, our practices are not on the periphery of our life. It's the center of our life. And if you don't have that in common with your mate, it probably is going to be a more difficult marriage. Marriage is already difficult. It's already a challenge. It's a great blessing, but it's already a challenge. And so it is wise for a person to have that, the center of their life in common. And when that happens, the Bible says that it can be like a threefold cord, a braided rope that is so powerful and so unbreakable that it could withstand the many things the many crises, the many pressures that marriage and having children and raising a family in this world brings upon you. So the answer is yes, we can marry outside of the Jehovah's Witness faith. And it's up to the individual as to whether they think that's a wise move or not.
Yeah, and in your response, you mentioned children. So do children of Jehovah's Witnesses have to choose to be Jehovah's Witnesses? And if so, why and what happens if they don't?
Yes, that's the simple answer is yes. I grew up in a family where
I want you guys to continue listening to this. Already we just caught Hendricks in a big lie. He's saying, no, there's no problem. If you, it's a personal choice. If you're going to date and marry someone, that's not a Jehovah's Witness. That's a personal choice. They don't micromanage. We're going to talk about this. That's a bald-faced lie. I'm going to give you information to show you right out of Watchtower Publications what happens when you do that. Now, he's going to be talking about children here, so listen in. He's talking about children and, how some children don't want to become Jehovah's Witnesses, but I caught him in another lie. This guy lies to us too. We've got some people here sneezing and coughing in the phone. I got to mute you, okay? So
Muted.
what you want to do is you want to always make sure you got your lines muted. That way there we don't get any background noise. So let's listen in now. Let's listen into, okay, we're going to mute some more. Here's what I'm just going to tell you guys what to do. I tell you every week, but if you can really follow through on instructions. Here's what you do. When you want to speak up, you hit *6. And then when you're done speaking, you hit *6 again, and that mutes you. So please do that for me. That would help me out a lot. So I'm muting some people now. Please don't unmute yourself. When you want to speak up, you unmute yourself. All right? So because we want to keep lines clear. You know what it's like? I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining people. It's very, very difficult to keep open lines here. So please work with me. Learn how to do this, please. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. You want to speak, you hit *6. And when you're not speaking, you hit *6 again, and that mutes you. All right, now we're going to go back to Hendricks. Hendricks is speaking here about children. We caught him in another lie. We're going to talk about these lies. Listen into what he has to say about children if they don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. This guy is a serial liar. Well, let's listen in. Listen in.
My father was baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. He was baptized at 12 years old. My mother at 14 years old, 1954, 1956. And when I came into the world, I had two other, a brother and a sister. And it took me 15 years to make that decision. I would say that I always felt very strongly. I never doubted that I was learning the truth. I never doubted my love for my God. But until I became a teenager, I wanted to really make sure that I could do this for the rest of my life. Because dedication is a commitment. It's again, we said this before, the number one thing in our lives. And so we're not just committing to putting a name on ourselves. We're committing to a way of life. And so, yes, children do that when they're ready. And that may be for my sister, it was 18. For my brother, it was 17. And that's pretty typical for Jehovah's Witnesses. And then there are some who don't make that dedication. And so if they don't make the dedication, that is their personal choice. All right,
we'll stop it right there. Okay, so he just said about children, that's their personal choice if they don't make the dedication. Well, he doesn't tell you what happens, right? He doesn't tell you what happens if they don't want to be dedicated, how they could be shunned by the family. So, you're not getting the whole truth. There's a mission of truth. He's not telling the whole truth. And then when it comes to being married or dating someone that's not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, can you just stop and think about what he said there? He says, we don't micromanage. Are you kidding me? They don't micromanage. Let me tell you what the definition of micromanage is. It's control every part, however small, of an enterprise or activity. But wouldn't you say Jehovah's Witnesses micromanage? That's the elders and the Watchtower itself. Don't they control every part, however small, of your life? All the time they're doing that. But Hendricks is saying, no, we don't micromanage. And, we're leaving it up to the person whether they want to marry outside the so-called truth. Well, let me just tell you something. That's a bald-faced lie. That's a bald-faced lie, and I'm going to tell you why. I got the brand new flock book right in front of me here. And I'm going to tell you what that flock book, it just came out in October 2022. And I'm going to tell you what it says about what would happen if you are dating an
Are we off the air?
You're on the air. Who's this? Did you want to say something, sir? Go ahead. I'm
I
not sure.
can't hear anything.
Are you out
I
there?
can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I haven't heard anyone for the last few minutes either.
You haven't heard anything? You can't hear a thing?
Huh.
What?
Rick will fix it in just a second, okay?
Is it off the air, Susan? Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, evidently we went off the air, but stay with us, folks. We're going to be right back with you. If you're on YouTube listening in, evidently our phone line went out, but we'll go right back on here. So let's get that on right now. We're going to go right back in. All right. For some reason it shut off on us. So let's go back. I'm glad that
Welcome into the live Six Screens conference call.
We'll get in, so stay with us.
We thank you for joining in.
Every
To
once in a
speak
while
up
we
and
do have a
talk,
phone
press
line here,
star
but
6
lately
on
it's
your
been
telephone.
going off on me. It's not right.
When you are done talking, press star 6 to mute yourself. Remember, when you are unmuted, your phone is a microphone and picks up on all noises in the background. We hope you enjoy the programs tonight.
So stay with us, folks. We'll be right
you will
back
now
on
be
the air.
placed into the conference.
Muted. The recording has started.
Well, I guess we're back into the conference now, so I think you can hear me now. Susan, can you hear me? Say yes or no.
Unmuted.
Okay, so I think we're back now. Susan, can you hear me all right? Just say yes or no. Susan?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, fine. So we're back on the air, folks. What happens here? We have a telephone line connected to our computer room, and for some reason the phone line does go out from time to time, but just hang in here with us and we'll be able to, I hope it's still on now. It appears it is. Let me just double check here. It's there's a lot of things you do here in a live program. And are we off again?
You're on, Rick. I can hear you. You were off for a while.
Okay, so we're on the line.
I can hear you, Rick.
All right, good. It's hard to know here, folks, because I'm just one guy in my computer room here. But anyways, we're on anyways again. So let's just go with that. I'm just wondering why this is not. It doesn't show me is okay. That's better. I think you guys can hear me still. All right, let's talk about this guy Hendricks again. That's who we were talking about. I don't know if you heard the last part of his little infomercial, but he was saying how children, they might not want to believe in Jehovah as they grow older, but basically he was saying that there's no problem if they don't. There's a big problem if they don't. If a child doesn't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, he's a dead duck. He's going to be shunned by his whole family. So that's really what Hendricks forgot to talk about. Oh yeah, in fact, when it came to marriage too, oh no, we don't micromanage a person's life. When a person dates a non-believer or even marries a non-believer, they might have to suffer the consequences, but he never mentioned them being shunned or, well, let me tell you right out of the Flock book. Let me just mention to you what the Flock book says, the brand new one, October 2022. It says point number 88, point number 78, it's in chapter 12. Let me just read this to you on what the Flock book has to say about dating an unbeliever. So Hendricks is saying there's no problem if you want to do it. Well, that's not what the Watchtower is saying as of late. For example, if a baptized Christian is dating an unbeliever, the elders should first counsel him and try to help him. If he persists in disregarding Bible principles, in spite of repeated admonition, the body of elders may decide that a warning talk should be given to the congregation. So stop right there for a second. Let me just ad lib. So you got a brother in the Kingdom Hall or a sister, and they are dating an unbeliever. You're going to give a warning talk to the congregation? Now, they might not mention names, but they say, we have someone in the congregation, if you can believe it, is actually seeing an unbeliever. So, they're going to chastise you, even though they're not going to mention your name. So now the Flock book goes on and says, if an individual is dating an unbaptized publisher, a warning talk may not be needed. Much would depend on the circumstances, on the attitude of the Christian, on the level of disturbance to the congregation and other factors. So what it is here, See, if you have a brother who is seeing a non-believer, or vice versa, everyone's going to be gossiping. Oh, brother Smith, he's seeing this woman and she's not even a witness. And they're going to talk about that. So they're going to give a warning talk in the congregation about this. Do Christians do that? Absolutely not. And then it goes on to say that they're going to give this warning talk. And nonetheless, if he is dating with a view to marrying someone who is unbaptized, he is not obeying the Bible's counsel to marry only in the Lord. So this goes even a step further. So you might even have a girlfriend that's studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, but she's not baptized yet. You still are going to get the hatchet on this one. You're still going to be counseled. You know, you should only be marrying in the Lord, which they say is a baptized witness. Now, if the disorderly one is moved to change their position, the elders can individually decide to resume personal socializing with him. So what they're saying here, if you're dating even an unbaptized Jehovah's Witness and you're a baptized witness and you're having marriage in mind, which the witnesses kind of portray dating as being, you have to have marriage in mind. So you would be counseled on that. And if you continue to go forward in not listening to the elders' feelings on this, then you would be personally disconnected from socializing with him. Now, notice the word they're using here. This seems to be a new word. I don't remember reading this before in the Flock book, but it's rather than say shunning, the organization here is saying, if he decides that he's not going to continue to date this unbeliever, then you can personally once again socialize with him. So, why don't they come right out and say shunning? That's too harsh, right? So you can see what I'm talking about here. You can see how this Hendricks, this spokesman for the Watchtower, he's saying that, oh, no, nothing's going to happen. It's a personal decision. It's not a personal decision. You can be shunned for wanting to marry an unbeliever. This guy is slimy. He's sneaky. Yes.
Do these talks go out to the witnesses, or do they go out to the world? I know they're going out to the media, to the world, but do the witnesses hear these talks too?
Oh, yeah, they do. And they're starting to rebel. They're starting to see many. Yeah. I'm getting people writing into me here at the 6 screens, and they're starting to see that Hendricks is not telling the truth. He's misleading people.
Rick, he's a bald. Hold on, Jeff. He's a bald-faced liar. I got hassled. I wasn't baptized, and I was kind of seeing a sister, and they gave the talk just like they said. They said, "How dare you?" Or not how dare you, but how could you date a brother that hasn't been tested yet? And I was going door to door and I was making the meetings, but I haven't been tested. And I got to tell you this, if I was doing a part on the meeting and I started dating a worldly girl, I wouldn't have a part. Bullshit. They say they don't micromanage. They micromanage everything you do. And I'll tell you, if I was a witness, if I was standing there with a witness, I would love to play that what Hendricks just said, and said, "What do you think about this man lying?" And then when they started to cover for him, I'd slap in the face and say, "Wake the hell up. This man is a bald-faced liar. Satan is the father of a lie. He's a liar." Exactly. Anyway, that's it. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, Rick.
Hey, yeah, Dan. And Rick, this guy, you mentioned him once before, this Hendricks, he is the Joseph Goebbels of the Nazis. And Joseph Goebbels, please, people, do your research. He would come out after bombings and everything else, and he'd smooth things out for Adolf Hitler. He was a big spokesman for Hitler. And he would tell lies and everything else and enforce the propaganda of the Nazis. And this is what this guy's doing. Everything that Rick is explaining here, this is exactly what this guy does. And that's all I have to say as far as that.
Can I talk here?
Okay, let this fella in, Jeff.
Hello?
This guy wants to speak up. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd
Yes,
like
sir.
to talk. I'm King of the Docks, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Who is it?
And I've followed Hendricks for 2 years. I've subscribed, because I'm a news fanatic, every news tube in the country. And I've rebutted him with comments on every single one. I have had very few people tell me I was wrong. I made it a point to make several comments to attack that ass. Sorry. Anyway, there's only one word to describe Watchtower, and that is lies. Constant lies. The father of lies has taken hold of this organization. I don't know it has it ever gotten as bad as it is now. By the way, I want to say hi to Wally and hi to Hazel, because I love both of them. They're my favorites. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Well, thank you for coming in, brother. I think you're new here, so always good to hear from new ones.
I'll be back.
I want you to come back.
I would like to add in something.
Well, keep it in
There's a
subject,
video
guy.
on-
I want you to keep it in subject now. Don't change the subject on me.
Sorry. It's related to that. There is a video from XJW Panda Tower about the 69 rules, the 69 commandments that's being shown. And one of those is related to, they're right, they're micromanaging. It shows how Pharisaic Watchtower is. Lots of rules, like no holidays, no birthdays, no dating, non-witnesses. It's out there.
Well, it is, Guy. It is, and it ties in. So thank you for commenting and letting us know how you feel about it. There's a lot of. Yes, go ahead, sir. Yep.
I was going to say.
Hey, Jeff. I'm going to ask Jeff. Listen to me. Let some other people call in, okay? I know you want to speak up, but let's let some people call in here, okay? I appreciate you wanting to speak up, but there's a lot that want to talk to you tonight. So go ahead. Let's listen to the next caller. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I laughed out loud when I heard that clip of him saying we don't micromanage people. One only needs to watch that ridiculous Pillowgate video to see just how micromanaging they really are. I mean, these guys will have you feeling guilty over private thoughts, have you worrying that you'll die at Armageddon because you had a slightly sexual thought about some random lady you saw at a supermarket. Getting to the whole point about this being involved with non-believers, I knew a sister in my congregation. She was the only married sister in my congregation who was not married to a believer, specifically an elder or ministerial servant. And even though she was already married to this guy when she came in, the fact is she was treated differently. She was effectively soft shunned by the other sisters, the other married sisters in the congregation. And it didn't take me long to notice that she was being treated differently by the others. There was a stigma attached to the fact that she was married to a guy who wasn't part of the religion. And I don't know if she's still there now, but this guy is just flat out lying. The evidence is right there for all of us to see on how much they micromanage us. I stated last week that I think that this religion will eventually just be specifically online. But truthfully, I think even if it eventually goes to that, they won't be getting many new members, because this is not a religion that can survive the age of the internet, because we can now verify much more easily than in years past whether or not they're actually telling the truth. So, I hope this results ultimately in the Watchtower crumbling, because, we can now verify whether or not he's being truthful when he says, oh, we don't micromanage. It's much more easy to do that now.
Well, that's a wonderful comment you made. I agree with you, brother. And, people are seeing this. People are seeing this. This guy is lying through his teeth, and he's saying that's a personal choice. It's not a personal choice to marry an unbeliever. As a matter of fact, I've even been going through some other Watchtower literature today, and I'm finding here in one article in one particular book, I don't have it in front of me here, but anyways, what they were saying is if an elder or a ministerial servant, if their adult child is going to marry an unbeliever, not even the elder's wife or other adult children who still live in the home would be allowed to attend the wedding. So if you have a child, an adult child, and you're an elder and your child's living with you in the home, and he decides to get married to an unbeliever, you cannot go. The other children, the wife could not go to the marriage ceremony. And even if it was to be held at a Kingdom Hall, they wouldn't do it first of all, but you couldn't go and be in that festive event. Now, the thing is, what would happen if you did go? You would lose your position. Hendricks doesn't talk about that. So a person who was to be exemplary as an elder or ministerial servant would not go to a wedding where there was an unbelieving person marrying a witness. If they did, they could lose their position. It's that simple. So this idea that adults, have a personal decision to make is absolutely a lie. It's suffocating me to even see the Watchtowers getting away with this, and people are not really seeing it. It's called theocratic warfare, lying for Jehovah. Boy, it's unreal.
And, I just want to make one more comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
With regards to this whole theocratic warfare thing, it's complete BS. If what you're doing, if the stuff that you're keeping hidden from the public, these little details, if they are so honorable, if you are absolutely certain that these are the right things to do, you would brag that you are doing these things instead of releasing these puff pieces. Like, you would be saying, yeah, this is what we do. This is what we believe. This is the truth. If you've got a problem with it, too bad. This is what our organization does. And it's the fact that they don't do that all for the sake of publicity. It just pisses me off. If they were true representatives of God and Jesus Christ, this is not how representatives of God and Jesus Christ are supposed to act.
Well said. I'm with you. If come out and just tell the truth. If you really were a true Christian and you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't have a problem at all. Talk about that. Thank you, brother. Always good to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
What's it called, that book again? At least they're not pretending to block.
What'd you say, Pixie? We missed that.
I said, holy smoke, 800 pages. At least they're not pretending to shepherd the flock. What's it called again?
Yeah, well, it's Shepherd the Flock. So if anyone wants that book, I have it in PDF. Just write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. jwworldnews@gmail.com. I'll send you the PDF. Check it out. It's in chapter 12, and it's under heading 78. I think you'll find it fascinating.
Wow. And tomorrow the Watchtower's got them writing the names in the Book of Life in pencil yet again. And I can't wait for the Jimmy Bell program. This is a hot show tonight, Rick. It's really getting totalitarian.
Well, Jimmy will be back with us, I believe, in about 2 weeks. So we're looking forward to Jimmy coming back in December. So he'll be back with us soon. Thank you, Pixie. All right. So did we have somebody else who wanted to say something? I believe they not.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Ken over here again. Thank you for taking my call. If we look down to the history, according to the information I receive now, we look back down the history. Watchtower Society said you could only marry within the Watchtower Society. Time goes on and a little bit like that, then each side has a hard time finding mates, especially the ladies. Okay? The ladies will go and they'll get somebody in, date with them and everything like that. But the conditions were always, he has to come and join the Watchtower Society, and according to their standards and so forth. So this nonsense that they're tolerant, of
people finding mates and everything like that, and it's a matter of choice, is all nonsense, because every piece of information I've got is that the person from the Watchtower Society finds a mate and they're a non-believer, they have to become a believer, or there's problems. So Hendricks over there is just, well, he's misleading people right and left and all forth, and all different directions, and he's a big liar on that issue.
Well, I agree with you, Ken. So yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They resorted to lies now. They resorted to these puff pieces, as we call them, to try to recruit more people into the Watchtower. Yeah, we got to.
Okay, Mr. Farron, I got one more.
Well, hold on,
okay,
Ken, why don't you just hold on? Ken, can you just hold on for a second? We got more people want to call in, so why don't you give some people a chance here? Okay, go ahead, sir. You're with us. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Rick. I used to have when I was up there with you in Warwick, I used to have an awake hotline when people would call in on the awake hotline, and I would hear the horror stories and I would talk to people. And this was a subject that was the majority of the calls about this specific subject about, Watchtower kept me from marrying or dating and so forth. But the problem too about, well, not only was Watchtower lying through their teeth, the problem is, how can you marry somebody who puts the words of strangers in New York above their spouse? So how can you? This is a very big problem, because if you get married to somebody, all of the problems I've noticed in marriages is because the husband doesn't listen to the wife and the wife doesn't listen to her husband. The two shall become one. And in this arrangement that Watchtower has, one spouse cares more about what these people in New York say than what their spouse thinks. And this is this policy that Watchtower has, I call it an adulterous relationship. They literally get involved in a relationship where they have no business being involved. And so everything the guy said was a complete lie. But this policy is adulterous in nature. It's a spiritual adultery. And it causes so much harm, because I'm going to say it one more time to make it sink in. You should not listen to anybody but your wife, and you women should not listen to anybody but your husbands. The two are one. It's a very simple concept. And Rick, thanks, because this subject was the majority of the topics that I would get on the phone when people would call me.
Well, yeah, no, it's a big topic. It really is something that people would be concerned with. We get someone else. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Juan. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. What's strange, he is very disingenuous. He can throw his lines to the teeth, and the man's a real snake in the grass.
Well, we're having some trouble a little bit. Was it Juan? Is that your name, Juan?
Yeah, Juan. Okay, the man is a snake in the grass. Okay.
Well, we want to. Can you come closer to your mic? We want to be able to make sure we can hear you really good.
I don't want to be so close where I mess up the call, so I'm trying to be careful.
All right, go ahead.
You hear me now, good?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The man is a snake in the grass, and disingenuous about everything he says. But particularly if you're a Bethelite, right? You can't be married. But the governing body, they don't marry. This was Noah's idea. If you're going to serve at Bethel, you can't be married. But yet when he fell in love with someone, he changed the rules and got married. Now, if you're a governing body member, or you're one of the higher up, and you're serving at Bethel, you can be married, and your wife can, serve with you. But not if you're a Bethelite. So these guys, the rules, follow their own rules.
Well, yeah, they do.
May I make a comment?
Are you done? Well, let's make sure Juan's done. Are you done, Juan? I guess
you know what I said.
Yeah, they do make up their own rules. I'm with you. I just don't want to leave you hanging. But thank you with a good comment. Yeah.
They changed the rules because everybody in the governing body is married, but the Bethelites can't be married. So, kind of BS is that,
Yeah.
I mean, if the Bethelites can't get married, then they shouldn't. It's amazing. These men, and by the way, they haven't been lying they've been lying for 140 years. That's how long the Watchtower has been in existence, for 140 years. That's how long they've been lying, from Russell to the present.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm not going to argue with you. I believe you. Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you for coming in. Thank you. I believe we have another caller coming in from Nebraska, is it? Go ahead.
Yep, it's Debbie. I wanted to make a pretty obvious observation here. You know, when people teach something different than what the Watchtower Society actually teaches, doesn't that make that person an apostate?
Well, that's by definition, yes.
Okay, so the spokesperson for the Watchtower Society is an apostate.
Well, I would call him that. I would call him that. I mean, he's a bald-faced liar, Debbie. Yeah.
Exactly. But he should be disfellowshipped for that, shouldn't he?
Well, I mean, who's going to disfellowship him? I mean, who's going to do it? It would take, an elder.
I just thought it was kind of funny, but about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thanks for chiming in with us. We appreciate it. All right. Any more?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to make a comment about what was said about micromanage and how they don't.
Yes.
And my thing is, if they don't micromanage, can somebody please tell me what was that Jade Anita broadcasting about?
Well, they micromanage. I mean, they quantum manage. I mean, they touch every aspect of your life. Geez, there's nothing you can do without consulting with an elder first, Jeez.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to just bring up. I thought that was pretty interesting, though. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother, for calling in. Now, are you new calling in? Yeah, I don't think I heard you before, did I?
No, I'm brand new. I've been listening to your show for like about a year now, so I've been kind of nervous to call in, but now I'm getting the courage to.
Well, thank you for calling in. We really appreciate it. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back and visit us again, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right, thank you. All right, there you go. I mean, we got people.
Hey,
calling.
Rick.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, this Hendricks, he's a pathological liar, and he twists backs around. And I was going to say, I made the comment before, people probably don't want to hear it or whatever. He's a Joseph Goebbels of the Nazis for Watchtower. So that's my comment, folks.
All right. Well, that's
research Joseph Goebbels. He's doing the same. This Hendricks is doing the same for Watchtower.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
Well, I agree with you. Thank you, Jeff. Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Hi, Rick. It's Carrie.
Hello, Carrie.
Hi, honey. Listen, I wanted to tell you about just two people as fast as I can. This brother from another country comes into our Kingdom Hall. And the reason he traveled all the way over to the USA is because he was in love with this lady, and the brothers discouraged him and I guess gave him such a hard time. So he wanted to be as faithful as he can. So he left his whole country, came to the U.S., and then he started dating this very mature, beautiful sister. What a match they were. But apparently their brothers didn't like that. So they broke them up. And then there was this young couple. This girl was dating this Spanish fellow, and they discouraged that. But they persevered, and then they said that they weren't going to let them get married in the Kingdom Hall. And then I think after a while they did. I'm not sure about that. But you talk about interfering within the walls of the Kingdom Halls. I mean, you're telling you who you can date and who you can't date, and cause so many problems. So, you end up breaking up. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, they have no right to do that.
Well, no, they don't, Carrie. And stop and think about it. There's somebody for everybody. You know, there really is. The way that it works out in marriage, there's somebody out there for everybody. And sometimes a person finds somebody that they really love a lot. I mean, they really know that this person would be so good for them, and they could have a good life together, and they could live a very valuable life and a precious life and a happy life. And yet the Watchtower has to come along and dictate. It's like a caste system. You know, they're going to tell you who you're going to marry. That those type of marriages never work out right. But that's what the
This is
Watchtower
true.
does. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
Rick. Hello.
Thank you, Carrie. I think we got Kurt coming in from Appalachia.
Hey, hi, Rick. Good program. Just a quick comment. The speaker that you're talking about there certainly didn't tell the truth. But just to add a little bit, I think we all know that in the New Testament, in particular with Paul and Peter, I think you mentioned earlier, to marry in the Lord. And so Paul and Peter in particular had a lot to say about marriage, a Christian marriage in the congregation. So what we have, obviously, is the Watchtower believes they have the truth, and they do, in fact, micromanage people's lives and marriages, children, and so on. I think they go too far with it. But, of course, you'll probably find it to some degree in different groups, Christian groups. But the Watchtower, I believe, are so fundamental that they do, in fact, micromanage. Anyway, good program, and thank you for taking my call.
Well,
Thank you.
Always good to hear from you, Kurt. Thank you for calling in. I think we had a sister online. Did you want to come in, sister? Go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, this is Pearl Goxie. I just wanted to say, even in response to the last comment about marrying only in the Lord, we know Jesus said that a man will leave his father and mother, join to his wife, and the two will become one flesh, so that they're no longer two but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. There's nothing there about a marriage license. I wanted to mention an experience in my congregation, my old congregation, where a woman was with her common law for 30 years, and she had a son, a full-grown son. She and her son were both handicapped, and the elders told her that if her husband didn't marry her, that she had to leave him. And so she went to her husband, she talked about it to him. He said, why do you want to do this now? And she told him, because the elders told me I have to. And so he said, no, I'm not doing it for those bozos. So she had to leave her husband, handicapped, with a handicapped son. Son became a bagger in a grocery store, and they could barely survive. And so what God joined together, the Watchtower put apart. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, yeah, let me just hold on 1 second there, sister. I'm glad you called in, but I'm just trying to put the story together here. So they were never married, you're saying?
They were never legally married, but Jesus said, what God has joined together, let no man put apart. And he said the basis for that was that they live together and they become one flesh. That's all Jesus said in Matthew chapter 19, verse 5 and 6.
Right. So they broke that up. I mean, after many years. How sad is that, right? How sad is that?
30 years married, and she had to leave her common law husband.
Well, sister, I want to thank you very much for sharing that story. I think you're new calling in too, right?
Oh, it's Pearl Goxie.
Oh, Pearl. I didn't recognize you. I didn't recognize your voice. Pearl. Okay, I know Pearl. Thank you, Pearl. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
All right. Good
Okay, bye-bye.
Always good to hear from Pearl. Thank you very much, Pearl. Well, there you go. I mean, guys, I'll tell you, the Watchtower, do they make life easy for you? Have they ever? No, they haven't. It's just unbelievable what these guys will do. They'll break a marriage apart in a heartbeat. Well, these puff stories, you like these puff stories? Boy, it gets a lot of traction here on the 6 screens. I'm going to give you another one. In fact, a matter of fact, I caught it out of New Jersey. They're really trying to come out. There's so much bad news coming out about the Watchtower that they have to kind of compensate for all the bad news. So they're coming up with these paid infomercials to tell you how great they are. I mean, just if you got to pay someone to tell you how great you are, normally if you're really great, you don't have to have anyone pay to do it. But the Watchtower seems to have an endless amount of these infomercials, or these puff pieces, as we call them. And I came across another one this week, and it's in New Jersey. And geez, I can't believe it. I'm going to play a clip. If you're on Facebook and YouTube and our video network, you'll see it. I'm going to play the clip on Jehovah's Witnesses in New Jersey who really have gone back to the door-to-door work, and 2 witness women, well, they were on the news, and they're going to tell you how wonderful it was going back door to door. So let me see if I can't find that piece right now, and you'll be able to see it here. So I'm going to play it right now. You'll hear it. These are 2 sisters going door to door in New Jersey, and they're so thrilled that they can start knocking on doors once again. You'll hear them. Let's play the clip. It's only a couple of minutes. Let's play the clip. All right. Let me see why this clip is not playing. Come on, clip, play. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to play the clip. Hold on one second here. I want to get the clip playing right. Hold on. Boy, I'll tell you, sometimes just doing things here. Okay, let's do this. Let's stop it here. And let's go back and see if we can't play this clip so you can hear the whole thing. Well, they're talking about how great it is to be out in service. So let's see if we can't get that clip to play now. Well, the page is unresponsive, though, so let's just wait a couple of minutes here and see. But anyways, just to make a long story short, we have these 2 sisters working
to know what to expect. There were so many changes in the world, but as soon as I went to the first store, it was just wonderful. It was back to normal. I was home. More people working from home. They're taking the time to talk. Really enjoy that. And many have decided to study the Bible with us because of that. So while it's not every door like that, certainly, we find more receptiveness there because there are more people there. I also find it very delightful to be able to work with my partner again. And they can be a variety of partners. We can choose to work with whoever is out in the ministry that day. But we learn from each other, and we share the joy of what we're doing. So to hear your partner's faith at the door.
Yeah, so this woman is really bragging about how nice it is going door to door and how all the people are so receptive. See if we can't get more in here. For some reason, I cut off. But anyways, I'll tell you the rest of the story. So they got these 2 sisters, these 2 Jehovah's Witness sisters, and they're going door to door, and they're saying how wonderful it is that people are way more receptive now, and they're eager to listen to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're finding it's even better than it has been in the past. And because of the pandemic and because of the problems in the world, people are opening the door to them. I mean, I can't believe all of that. I can't believe that people are so receptive and listening to the message from the witnesses. I can't believe it. But these puff pieces are doing it, and they're paying for this. I couldn't believe how long this article was. Not only did the newspaper have a video in it about the witnesses that you just heard here, but also they did a long story. I mean, really, really long. That's not generally what a newspaper would do. Somebody paid for that. That had to be the Watchtower. So they're saying that it's so wonderful to be a Jehovah's Witness today, and people are responding so well. And then also in that little clip that I was playing, you didn't hear it, but they were saying that during COVID, when the Jehovah's Witnesses were on Zoom and couldn't go door to door, that they baptized an additional 500,000 people worldwide. I don't know if I can believe that. I really, really don't.
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
I was thinking, they said they paid to have these infomercials put on TV.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much did they pay these sisters to say they paid them to say that.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe it.
Oh.
I do not. I hated service so bad. I would just have a migraine headache by the end of my service time. I could not stand it. And I can't believe that people are more rude lately. I can't believe people are opening the door while they're working at home and being so glad to talk to them. Do they hire actors to do this? I don't believe it.
I think so. I mean, I wish the clip could have played in its entirety there, but it showed the two sisters, and they were working together, and they were in their 60s, I'd say late 50s, 60s, and they're going door to door in New Jersey, and they're saying how wonderful it is that people are so receptive and they're opening the doors, and it's just unbelievable, unbelievable.
Well, they sure were following the script of the Watchtower. I bet they were just saying what they were told. You were just reading off the monitor because it was too smooth, and I don't believe that those weren't actors, or at least if they were sisters, they were coached on what to say.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put the link up. Some people have been wanting the link here on our StreamYard, so I'm going to put the link up. If you guys are listening in, you want to see that clip, you can watch it. There's the link right there. Hit that link, and you'll be able to you'll be able to see those sisters. But I just don't believe it. You know, when an organization has to resort to lying through their teeth to try to tell you how great things are. Well, why aren't we hearing this from the general public? Why do we have to hear paid infomercials on this? Why isn't the world coming out on? Why don't you hear this on CBS or CNN? Why don't you hear the wonderful witness work is back? And you don't hear it. These are little, offshoot newspapers and radio and television stations that are doing this. Okay, you're on with us. Who wants to say something? You're on with us.
Yeah, Mr. Farron.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah. Many years ago, I heard the stories and everything like that of people that went door to door. I don't have too much information on that, but we had it on 6 screens before. The biggest response that you get in all the face of the earth and everything like that is when you knock on somebody's doors, we're not interested. We're not interested. We're not interested. And the second biggest response you get if somebody sees you coming, they just don't answer the door and so forth. So how is it and everything like that, that if many years ago, when people were more responsive to a religious minister or somebody like that coming door to door, not necessarily the Watchtower Society, how is it that now, this day and age, that everybody is going to be more responsive to the Watchtower Society in spite of all these scandals and everything that's going on? Now, there's something wrong there. It's really contradictory and inconsistent. So I'm inclined to believe that it's all a put-up job and it's all a big story that they're trying to hide behind.
Well, Ken, I think you would agree that it's a con job. It's a con job.
Yeah.
Then I got to bring Hendricks up once again, because he appears in this puff piece again. They're using him a lot. I hate to even keep bringing him up, but he's very disturbing to me. But here's something that he said that really floored me. And it really is taking a shot at regular Christians, okay? What Hendricks said, we are Jehovah's Witnesses, and we testify about our Creator, and we're glad to be witnesses, is what he was saying. And then he said here, we do not preach to ourselves, we reach out to our neighbors. So what he's basically saying is, in Christendom, people just preach to themselves. Oh, we got the truth. Oh, we love you. We love God. And we want to. He's getting into the fact here that, because they reach out to their neighbors, they are real Christians, and that ticks me off a little bit. I don't like the statement, we don't preach to ourselves. Well, neither do real Christians. But he's saying that in essence. He says that they're politically neutral. And they certainly don't celebrate. In fact, he even brought out in the article here that they don't celebrate holidays. In fact, it brought out Christmas, Mother's Day even. I'm really surprised they're bringing this out. But the reason why they're bringing this out is because people are talking about it. You know, and if you're in crisis mode, if you are being tarnished and bombarded by all of the articles and news media that's coming against you and accusing you of not doing things, you better make a stand for what you're saying. So he's coming out here, Hendricks again, and saying that Christmas and Mother's Day, they aren't observed by our faith. And he says they're from pagan origins. I'm really surprised he got into that. And also he was being asked in the article here about not accepting blood transfusions. And he goes into his little tirade once again on how he says in serious cases, members typically request that doctors seek the best alternative that would respect their religious beliefs. But he doesn't tell you how many Jehovah's Witnesses have died from refusing a blood transfusion. So his answer is when there's a real serious case, the witness would ask for alternative measures to take instead of taking blood. I'll tell you, it's
Mr. Farron.
Yes.
Yeah, that is totally misleading and everything like that. What I wanted to say earlier is and all that regarding holidays and some of the other issues, which is going to be a story for another time, not tonight, because we've got several weeks and several and the new year yet to go along. We're going to be talking about the holidays and everything like that. I've got some information now there I think that's going to be disturbing regarding the holidays, but let's wait and see down the road, and I'll be presenting that to you according to the information that I received.
All right, well, let's wait for that then, Ken. That's good. So anyways, we got more stories here. We've got more things to talk about here on JW World News. We do it every Saturday night. We do it every other Sunday. Now, not tomorrow Sunday, but the following Sunday. But I just wanted to, there's another thing that caught my attention when I was going through Jehovah's Witness news this week. And this really rattled my cage. It really rattled my cage. And what it has to do with here really is something I've never seen before. They have a big, another puff piece. I hate to be staying on the subject of puff pieces here, but that's all I'm seeing lately coming across the news. The Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of counteracting all of this news coming out about the Watchtower, about covering up child molestation and sexual abuse, that they got to come out with something. So they're paying for advertising. Now, what we have here is Jehovah. This is another puff piece. Jehovah's Witnesses labor over a renovation project. Now, here we have out in Pendleton, Oregon, we have Jehovah's Witnesses are so excited to show off their remodeling of a Kingdom Hall. Friends, that is not going to make the news without being paid. I mean, come on, there's churches being renovated all the time. So you're telling me that in Pendleton, Oregon, the Jehovah's Witnesses are almost making like headline news here because they're renovating a Kingdom Hall? I mean, they're talking about it being totally gutted. You know, they went right through it, took all the walls down, put new walls up, and the project is now being finished. But this is what really got me, and this shows me it's a puff piece. It says in the newspaper, in the context of the newspaper article, it says the public is invited to an open house on Saturday, December 3rd at 10 a.m. to noontime. Well, wait a minute. I mean, are people really interested in going to an open house at a Kingdom Hall? Would you be? I mean, oh, honey, they're having a Kingdom Hall open house. We got to go there. It's coming up on December 3rd. We got to make sure it's Saturday. We got to make sure we mark it on our calendar. Now, nobody's doing that. But here they have in this puff piece that they're opening up a Kingdom Hall for open house. And then also in the article, it says to answer questions about the building or answer questions about Jehovah's Witnesses. This is nothing more than a way to recruit new members. And, you know, this article goes on and on and on. I can't believe it, on how they're getting volunteers that came from all over the Northwest to renovate the Kingdom Hall, and they're working for free, and they're spending. Some people have taken 2, 3, a couple of months off to work on the Kingdom Hall, and talks about a 19-year-old girl who wants to learn more about construction and what have you. So she came and she's been working on the project with them. I mean, really, all of this puff piece stuff, which is all witness oriented, all witness narratives to try to get people to come to their open house and tell them how great the Jehovah's Witnesses are. This is absolutely nuts to me. But this is all I'm seeing. Friends, you guys know, every week, what I do here is I try to pick out the news that's topping the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. What are the top stories? And this is all I'm reading lately, is these crazy puff pieces. It's absolutely unbelievable. Well, I'm glad you're with us tonight. We've got some really good programming that will be coming up later. We've got a number of programs that come up after this. We have got a program beginning in about a half hour from now. And we got Joe and Fran. They are former Jehovah's Witnesses. They just got out in the last year. And they got a program coming up. It's a special program on the 6 screens, Suicide in the Watchtower. And they're going to be talking to you about a very serious topic, suicide. Many Jehovah's Witnesses right now, in fact, many people, even not Jehovah's Witnesses, are committing suicide. What's that all about? But the rate of suicide in the Watchtower seems to be higher than normal religions. What's that all about? They'll be talking about it tonight at 9:30 right here on the 6 screens, Telenetwork. All right. Anyone want to speak up before we move on? Anyone have anything to say?
I do have a statement to make.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm calling from South Carolina. The open house that you had just mentioned is quite interesting because it shows you how the organization is hurting and they're pleading for new members. And that is probably an avenue that they're taking to open the door to creating a new membership, because without members, like they're losing tons of members because of the internet and programs such as this. I believe that this is an avenue that there's strategy they're taking to promote their propaganda.
Well, I'm on the same ship you're on. I believe that's another avenue. They're looking for any way they can. See, they have to keep recruiting.
That's correct.
Yeah, they have to keep recruiting because they have more walking out the back door than coming in the front door. And what happens after a while is the witnesses will pick up on that. They'll say, gee, we're doing all this work, but we're not bringing any new ones in. This could be the next big dilemma the Watchtower is faced with. But as long as there's people coming in and they're seeing them, it kind of works, and the witnesses will still go out and preach. But if you're getting no results at all, and you're going backwards, there's going to be many people say, what's the use? Why go out and spend my time? So they got to get as many people recruited as they can. Brother, thank you very much. That's a very good comment. Thank you.
Thank you too, Rick. You're a great show. Keep on pushing forward.
Well, thank you. We got a sister. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Yes, I have something to say. I'm from Canada, actually.
Yes. Well, thank you, sister, for calling in.
Yeah, so my father was on the Quick Build Committee years ago, and he, I noticed that a lot of puff pieces were made at that point. Do you remember that?
Well, fill me in.
Well, in Canada, there were the Quick Build projects, so they'd be built in, 3 days. And then, of course, they'd have all of this publicity about, the Kingdom Halls being built and why don't you come to our meetings? And now all they have are these puff pieces on renovating, whatever remains of the Kingdom Halls that aren't being sold off.
You're right. Well, that's exactly right. In fact, I've been researching the news here for doing my Jehovah's Witness news now for going on 17 years. And you're right. At one time, they would really make such a big deal, a puff piece, as we would say, about the building of Kingdom Halls, quick bills, 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, and how wonderful the press they were getting. But they haven't been doing that a lot lately, so they can't get that type of press. So they gotta try to make something up to get themselves in the news, because everything I've been reading lately is too bad against them. It's too critical, too negative.
Yeah, and also the them standing beside the cart. I mean, they're not going to get any. They're just standing. They're not preaching. They're not creating any movement in the organization whatsoever by standing beside a cart of literature that is just a pittance of what it used to be.
It's a changing organization, sisters. So have you been out for a while?
I had to fade because I'm fourth generation, and almost all of my family are Jehovah's Witnesses. And so to have any semblance of a relationship, I had to, I don't know, just kind of fall away, but not get disfellowshipped, and I didn't want to raise my children like them.
Well, I don't blame you one bit. So you're kind of disconnecting from them. And I think this is the first time you called in the program, I think.
It is. And I've watched you a few times. I'm very happy to see that there are people out there that are relentless like you and Barbara Anderson in, talking about this, because the world needs to know that this organization is toxic. It breaks my heart.
Well, thank you for saying that. And there's a lot of activists too, and they're all doing a good job. I tip my hat to all the activists that are speaking up against the Watchtower. It's working. It really is getting the attention of many people, and they're beginning to see how evil this organization is. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Rick?
Well, a few years ago, just quickly, and then I'll let somebody else talk. A few years ago, before COVID, I went to Toronto, middle of the night, before the assembly was to start the next day, and I posted flyers about JW Facts everywhere, at the coffee shops, on the JW sign, on the facility where there is the assembly. Then I went to the assembly and I posted in the bathrooms, in the stalls, and it made a huge wave. It was wonderful. But in Canada, there's just not that many groups, that come together and do this.
Well, I applaud you for doing that. See, but every little bit, what you do, I do, all the people, all these YouTube people, all the people are speaking out. All of us can do a little bit. All the people even commenting in here on YouTube, and witnesses are seeing all of this. So that was good. You did that, and I applaud you for doing that. Thank you.
And because of you and because of other people, you are giving us a family that we don't have.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. I feel the same way as a witness for many years of my life, and I feel like I have a new family here too. But thank you for chiming in with us. Now, you come back and see us again soon, okay?
I will. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us. I think we got the sister, and then we'll go with the brother. Go ahead, sister.
Hello?
I was going to tell you something new that they're doing here. In this city I'm living in, they've been doing the letter writing for a long time. And the other day, my granddaughter got a letter. And the only thing her name is on is her car. And she has to drive by a Kingdom Hall every day when she goes to work. And so somehow they're getting the tag numbers off the cars and then matching I don't know how they get the tag numbers and who they're connected to. Is that public information?
Well, you can find out tag numbers and who it belongs to. Yes.
Okay, well, that's apparently what they're doing. We didn't know it was public information. But anyway, that's the first time she's got a letter in her name. They found out my name, and it's not for me driving my own vehicle or even using my vehicle. But then, property records are also public.
Yeah, well, they're gonna find, Debbie. They're gonna find any way at all to get a hold of people, and they're trying every trick in the book. The more people they can contact, the more people they hope they can recruit. Well, thank you, Debbie. Let's let it go with that.
Hi, Rick.
We're kind of
Hey, Rick.
okay. We got other people. Let's go with the first person first. We have to just kind of keep an order here. We had one more gentleman on. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Rick. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. After you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
Hey, I want to ask you, what if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you don't like the New World Translation and you start using the King James and you refuse to use their translation and the preaching work, even giving out, raising your hand in the Kingdom Hall for comments and you read out of the King James? Would they allow that, or what would the outcome be on that? Would you know?
Oh, yeah, no, because it happened to me. It happened to me. When I was starting to distance myself, I knew these guys were a bunch of frauds. I got a new King James Bible and I brought it to the Kingdom Hall. And so during the Watchtower lesson, I started reading, the scriptures that were quoted in the Watchtower out of the New King James. And after the meeting, I was talked to about it. And, brother came to me and said, why aren't you using the New World Translation? I said, well, I got the King James. They want you to use the New World Translation. Yeah, you're right. You'll be reprimanded for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Would they disfellowship you?
You wouldn't be disfellowship, but maybe if you continued on. But I was more or less put in a position that, the scripture I was concerned with was in the. I'm not going to get into it too deep, but it was in the Sermon on the Mount, and it had to do with the Beatitudes. And of course, the New World Translation always says that happy are the peaceful, happy are the merciful. But from the New King James, it was saying, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the peaceful. And so it's two different meanings. I mean, you can be happy eating a Big Mac, but you can't be blessed. So I made comment that I like the way this translation says it. And I got in trouble for that. Yeah, you got to be careful.
But you'll notice in the New World Translation, they don't use the word blessed hardly ever. 90% of the time it's happy, but the New King James used the word blessed. And I prefer the word blessed, and some of the wording in the New Bible, they have changed it. And it seems the New King James seems to me more holy to me. The New World Translation doesn't seem that holy because they removed the word blessed, and God uses the word you are blessed. So that's what I noticed.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you for chiming in and talking to us. But that's you'll be reprimanded. They want you to use the New World Translation. Thank you, brother. All right.
Rick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Rick. I want to talk about the puff pieces. You're mentioning the puff pieces.
Oh, yeah.
You are right. Listen, I've been thinking about this, and me and Gilbert here in Yuma, we've been talking about it, and we have an idea, and it sounds funny, but it's not. What it boils down to is the theory that Jehovah is transitioning. Jehovah is transitioning. In the last 3 years, the Watchtower organization, Jehovah's Witnesses, have gotten closer to the world than ever before. They've never been any part of the world with Rutherford and Russell. But now, with the social distancing, the embracing the World Economic Forum, the wearing of the mask, the loving of the United Nations, following everything Klaus Schwab does, not obeying President Trump when he said open up the kingdom halls, when he said open up the churches, the Jehovah's Witnesses are transitioning. They have never been
part of the world until now. And so they're getting puff pieces naturally because they are part of the world now. They weren't getting puff pieces in the old days because they weren't part of anything. Now they are transitioning into the biggest part of the world. They're embracing the whole globalist agenda, their New World Translation. So, of course, they're getting puff pieces. Birds of a feather flock together. They're one and the same now. The journalists that are like the whole world has become Jehovah's Witnesses now. They're all globalists.
Well, in fact, thank you, brother. I mean, for bringing this up because I've been noticing that as well. They seem to be moving more. They seem to be moving more in direction of the New World Order, the Great Reset. It seems like. Hey, I'm with you.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's go. We got a few people coming on, so go ahead. Let's go with one at a time here. Go ahead. Speak up.
Hey, Rick. The reason they call it the New World Trend. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jeff, hold on. Yeah, I want to bring new ones in. I want to hear from you too. We hear
Yes,
you,
sir.
but give some new ones a chance to talk. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, brother.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
What the witnesses disfellowship a person for being overweight, because I remember an elder, he had to weigh at least 400 pounds, and the other elders who used to kind of talk about him behind his back, because I remember in the car group in field service they was talking about him like a dog, and I just couldn't believe it. I said they're bad about this fellow elder talking about his weight, but I was wondering, in your experience, do they disfellowship witnesses for obesity?
They could. I mean, I've reviewed the Flock book on that. They would call it gluttony. It has been brought up before here on the 6 screens. Now, it's rare. I don't know of anyone personally that's ever been disfellowship for gluttony, but they will, if you are in that position and you're like a really heavy, overweight person, they could approach you and, it depends on the congregation and they could put pressure on you for being a little heavy. Yeah. I mean, very heavy, Yeah. So I have heard of
but
that.
I was just so surprised that they was bad-mouthing him like that behind his back, because then they would grin in his face, but then in the car groups and field service, they'll say like, yeah, Brother Jones, you need to lose some weight. You need to go to Jenny Craig, with his fat butt. I was just totally stunned,
Well, on that same subject, brother, I'm glad you're bringing it up because I notice it too. You notice all these videos that are coming out of Warwick, and they're making these videos, and these videos have, attractive, handsome brothers and pretty sisters, and nobody's overweight. They all have a nice shape, but that's not the real world. That's Hollywood world. And, there's a lot of brothers and sisters that are overweight, but, they're never in these videos. It should really jog the thinking of a witness and say, geez, what's the matter going on here? These aren't really Jehovah's Witnesses. These are actors. I mean, it's nutty. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
All right. Go ahead, Jeff. Now, go ahead, Jeff. Come on in and let's know what you think.
Yeah, Rick, I was going to say there's a reason they call that the New World Translation.
Yeah.
Or translation. I'm sorry.
What's the reason? What's the reason?
Well, because they've changed it from the King James.
Yeah. Well, of course, the New World too. That kind of opens up Pandora's box, right? New World. Well, what's the New World?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, there you go, Jeff. Okay, that's good. That's a good comment. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right. There we go, friends. Boy, I'll tell you what, we have got people calling in from all over the place tonight. It's really good that we have this. It really, really is good we have this.
Hi, Rick.
Yes.
Hi. It's real interesting, all those pieces, you call them puff pieces, which they are. The newspapers are hungry for readership because no one's buying them. So they're going to take as much business as they can from anywhere. Basically, they're desperate. And with that in mind, maybe it's an avenue for us as well to think of ways that we can put information in whatever small or larger ways. I think it's our opportunity as well to do something.
Well, absolutely. I believe this is Joe, right, Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I sent you a clip. I sent you a link, so we're going to be looking forward to your program coming up in about 15 minutes.
Thanks.
I think you got the link okay. If not, let me know, okay? But I think you did get it, yep.
Okay.
It's going to be in our email.
Email?
I sent it to, Joe, your Joe email, yeah?
Okay.
So
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Hi, this is Miss Q. I've got 2 comments. One on the Bible version.
Yeah.
And the other one for weight. Okay, so the Bible version, even on the old Bible versions for the New World Translation, they don't want you using that because it happened to a brother of mine. A CO got so upset at him because he was still using the black Bible, the 1984 version.
Right.
And he scolded for not using the silver one. So even at that, they don't want you using the old New Translation versions. They want you to stick to the new ones because, of course, they're making changes. So I just thought I'd let you know that one, which to this day, my brother remains a PMO because, he's got all his family and everything. But, yeah, we'll have very interesting conversations now and then. And as far as the overweight, I also have family that are COs, and they are like eminent that they cannot be overweight to serve in that position. They have to be very conscientious of their weight. I even had some of my family members, they had to be like all out keto or doing all these extreme diets. We even they asked us to get them some kind of diet pills from here. So I know with position, you cannot be overweight, especially the COs or the people that they call the order. I'm pretty sure the same case with the people working in the Bethel, the Bethelites, that they'll get scolded or they no longer hold position if they're being overweight. I just thought I'd let you know that from firsthand of family members that I have, and they tell us that.
Some congregations are more strict than others, but that subject does come up. And I think it's really evil that a Christian organization would approach people and really disqualify them or even disfellowship them for something that, could be caused by a health issue. Maybe there's mental issues going on, but the Watchtower does not care. They could create monumental issues in a person's life because of it. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, sister. Always good to hear from new ones coming in. We really appreciate it. So, friends, I'll tell you what. We do the news here every Saturday night, but I can't believe some of the stuff the Watchtower is engaged in. We have more stories to talk about tonight, but maybe we just might let it go.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead. Yep.
Hey, Rick. It's Dick Forgy out in
Dick. Yep.
California here.
Yes, Dick.
That story about people being overweight, being disfellowshipped, I brought this up many, many times over the 15 or 16 years about a situation that I was in back in 1985. And a circuit overseer came and he wanted us to vote. It was a meeting of elders and servants in the back room, and they wanted us to vote whether or not we should disfellowship people that are overweight. The reasoning that he gave was that we disfellowship people for smoking cigarettes because cigarette smoking is injurious to your health, and being overweight is injurious to your health, so it seemed to run a parallel. So should we disfellowship people? Now, there was 3 elders and they were friends of mine. They all had slender wives. They put up their hand. They wanted to disfellowship people that were overweight. I jumped up, and at the time I was the servants, and I was in the back, and I was one of those guys that kept his mouth shut. And I just stood up and I said, "Whatever happened to the Holy Spirit telling the anointed remnant Jehovah's feelings and the anointed remnant telling the governing body, and the governing body, would tell all the congregations. Why are we voting? It doesn't make sense to me. He just stood there and looked at me, and everyone just looked at me like I was, from another planet. And so I sat down, and then I stood up again. I said, if that sounds like Nazi Germany, and you're building the master race. Well, anyway, half of the elders and servants was kind of split down the middle to disfellowship people that are overweight. And the brother that brought the message to us had like a 55-inch waistline. It just goes to show that this is an organization, just like the Sanhedrin, who brought in how many? 613 new laws, and the people had to obey it because it came from God. Well, we know the Sanhedrin were the ones most responsible for having Jesus put to death. This stuff that they coming out with, it's crazy. And if they do that, there's going to be a lot of brothers and sisters that are going to be disfellowshipped. I can't imagine taking away somebody's everlasting life because they're overweight. I mean, what are they going to do? Bring a Jenny Craig weighing machine and put it in the back room and have the sisters stand on it and the elders write down their weight and their height and their their BMI? It's just insane. This is how absolutely crazy they are getting. It's Satan's organization without a doubt. Without a doubt. Thanks, Rick. Didn't mean to go on and on, but I just thought it was so apropos.
What I'm getting though, Dick, I do remember you told that story before, and I think it's good to reiterate it and be able to bring it up because really overweight is a difficult thing. You don't know why people are overweight. I'm a little overweight myself, to be honest with you, but I enjoy food like everybody else. Some people's metabolism. I don't want to be a 2-ton Ricky here either, but I mean I will be a little careful. But at some point, why would you pick on that? If a person has a good, honest heart and they're nice to other people and they're loving to other people, let it go. But the Watchtower doesn't let things go. They don't. They, take a look at the governing body. You want to talk about overweight? Geez, they should be the first on the chopping block. None of them. None of those guys on the, maybe those planes not that heavy. Loesch isn't too heavy, but Jackson, he could lose some pounds. He could. He seems to be okay. Hurd, he's overweight. So there are some governing body members that are overweight, but let's start there first. But it's a subject that should not even be brought up. But the Watchtower does it. Yeah, go ahead. You're with us.
Just a follow up on that. I had a former mother-in-law that I love. She's a beautiful, beautiful person. Brought 6 children into the world, and she weighed over 300 pounds. And she diet like crazy and all kinds of stuff like that, and lose 5 or 6 pounds. Her normal weight for a woman that was 5'5", it was like 140 pounds. There's no way in heck that woman was got to go from over 300 pounds. She was 55 years old, and there was no way she was going to get down to 150 pounds. And my former wife, she was overweight too. And I just kind of wonder what's going to happen now. I've seen a recent photograph of my former wife, and quite heavy. Are they going to start disfellowshipping people that have learned out in field service for 30 to 40 years, have been a faithful witness, and praise a lot, and just a good person? Are they going to start disfellowshipping them? That's just so cruel. It certainly is Satan's organization. I don't mean to go on and on.
What you're saying here is absolutely, it is cruel. It is very, very cruel. And there's no place for that. There really, really isn't any place for that in the Christian arrangement. Now, they can use scriptures, and who is to be the judge? Who is to be the judge? I mean, gluttony is one thing. I mean, the Romans did it. I mean, now you want to talk, I believe those scriptures, whatever ones they would use concerning gluttony, they would have to be with the Romans. These people, they had a good civilization at the time. All the Roman people were doing good financially. They had plenty of money to buy food, and they would splurge. What they would do is have these orgies, so to speak, of eating food. They would eat food. In fact, they'd eat so much that they would all run out and throw up and vomit it out and then come back and eat more. That's gluttony. That is gluttony. That, I'm sure, is what the scriptures were talking about. But it wasn't talking about a person that was overweight. For crying aloud, cut them some slack. But the Watchtower doesn't cut slack. Thank you, Dick. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Well, my goodness gracious, time is just about up here. But we're not done. We've got a number of programs coming up tonight on the 6 screens. So by all means, stay with us. But let me take about 5 minutes here and just talk to the audience. I really, really enjoy all of you guys coming in tonight. You really lit up my computer screens here. I've got 7 computers running here at the 6 screens. And, sometimes everything doesn't go off as smooth as I like because it's a live program. So we will have little snafus here or there, but I want to thank you all for being patient. We have a phone line that comes in that goes off from time to time, but I believe that it worked pretty good tonight. It did go off a little earlier. But,
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
I was going to say about being overweight.
Well,
look at Tony Whiskey Morris.
Yeah. Well, even to Tony, he's a little overweight too. So, nobody should be talking.
Well, I am too, and a lot of people are, but pretty hypocritical for them to judge people that are overweight. So, that's all I got to say.
All right. Well, that's good, Jeff. But anyways, I just wanted to tell the audience here tonight that we really appreciate you guys calling in. And we've been getting more and more people listening into the 6 screens every Saturday night. And I'm really appreciative of that because I'm going to tell you something. It's helping many, many, many people to be able to contact and talk to people in real time. It solidifies to so many people that the Watchtower is wrong. Their teachings are wrong. Their cruelty is being shown here, the evilness of the organization. So I want to thank all the people for calling into the program tonight. And, we do 6 screens Sunday. Now, we won't be doing it tomorrow, but we've got some great programs on Sunday coming up next Sunday, where we have a program called The Christian Court. And man, I'm going to tell you, it's gaining a lot of momentum. It's on at 4 o'clock every other Sunday. And these are questions that many Christians have that are in the gray area. And, for example, like, do I take wine or grape juice? Do I go, am I to remain neutral in war? All questions along those lines. It's not anything that's going to keep you out of the kingdom. It's non-judgmental, but it's a fascinating program. And boy, I'll tell you, it's really gaining momentum here at the 6 screens. So we're looking forward to next Sunday, not tomorrow, for a 6 screen Sunday, where we talk about spiritual matters. Now, I just wanted to mention, too, that, there are still people that are sending money here to the 6 screens. And I really want you to know, I thank you for that. But I'm okay. I'm okay. I got my little studio here. I'm happy. And I appreciate the fact you want to help me. But, give the money. Help somebody else. Help somebody that could really use the money. Even a Jehovah's Witness right now, a lot of people are falling through the cracks. But, I want to thank those that have sent money here. But don't send it here. Give it to somebody that really, really, really could use it. I don't want to have to charge anybody money to do a program here. I got out of the Watchtower, places like Randy Water, Free Minds, and a number of other sites, Watchtower Information Service. I never had to pay a penny. I didn't have to become a patron. I didn't have to, give my credit card to someone so that I could get out of this organization. So I just wanted to mention that. Give the money to somebody that could really,
Hey, Rick.
really enjoy it. Yes.
That says a lot. And Dan and Angela are the same. You're not asking for no money, and I'm amazed by that. So,
well, thank you, Jeff. But
Thank you.
But I really mean it. I got out free. It didn't cost me a penny, and I feel the same way for so many people right now. There's a lot of witnesses that have fallen through the cracks. They haven't done good. I don't want them to have to support some channel here because you're learning the truth about the truth as it is. So thank you very much for understanding that, Jeff. But in the meantime, we've got more programming coming up tonight. Now, if you like what you see here on YouTube, why don't you like us and subscribe to us? That would mean more to me than you giving me $100. Believe me. Just hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and that'll mean more witnesses. The algorithms at YouTube will kick in, and more people will be able to listen into this program and be able to get help. So go ahead and do that. That would really help me a lot. I'd appreciate it. Well, it looks like we're going to end the program here. We do have another program coming up here right now. It's all about suicide in the Watchtower, and we have Joe and Fran. And they're newly out. They've been out now for a good part of not quite a year yet, but they want to come on tonight. They want to talk all about suicide in the Watchtower. So why don't you guys stay with us? We're going to end this YouTube broadcast, but we'll be coming right back in just a couple of minutes. So let me just check in here right now. Let me see if Fran and Joe I do see them ready. Yeah, they do see us. I'd see them. So we're going to be getting ready to bring them on here very shortly. So in the meantime, I want you guys always to stand tall. Don't you ever give in, up or out. Keep fighting against the Watchtower. And don't you ever give up. I appreciate all you guys calling in, as I say. Keep doing what you have to do to tell as many people as possible how much of a cult the Watchtower is. Tell everybody. And the more people we have telling people, the more everyone's going to know the Jehovah's Witnesses are this evil, evil cult. All right. I just want to end it here. And I just want to say, the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. We're going to end this program here. Our new program is going to start in about 2 minutes. Appreciate you all coming in tonight to our JW World News.